J. Julio Vela with the Houston media source and best host ever, Justin Harris. How you doing, my man?
Hey man, how's it going, JV?
Very good, very good. J. Julio
It's
Vela
been a
with the,
heavy day today.
well, it's been a heavy day because you've been fighting for justice, huh?
Oh, yeah, we picked a jury today, but I was thinking more about all the people gathering to remember Jeff Blackburn.
Let's end on Jeff Blackburn if we may, because it's a big deal, and I'd like to spend some time on it. And I
Absolutely.
think we should. I think we should. Jeff Blackburn was an amazing member of our legal community, an amazing father, loving human, and has changed the lives of so many people. Um,
hmm
he's
What's
truly
been going on
amazing.
with you? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. Just in there fighting the trials and such. Let's see. We had a mid-trial dismissal this week out in the ERD docket, and I hear that you sat a jury trial today.
Yes, in Court 12, Judge Draper.
Look, Judge Draper is has been incredibly, and she has her poise as a judge is great. Is that your experience, or is that not your experience during voir dire?
Oh no, Judge Draper has been. So if you recall, she was appointed by the county commissioners after the previous judge, I believe Judge Holloway, passed away unexpectedly, really shortly after being elected. Um, she wasn't very long on the bench, unfortunately. But Judge Draper was appointed by the commissioners, and she immediately took on leadership roles of all 16 judges. She stepped in. There's a lot of great leaders in that courthouse. Judge Finch, and especially the misdemeanor courts, Judge Finch, Judge Baldwin, Judge Jones, Judge Andrews. They have stepped up in so many ways, and all the judges kind of divide up different tasks. But Judge Draper took on like forming the MAC. She took on like reforming the appointment system. She's also apparently running sober court. She's managing it all very well. Her court runs pretty effectively. You know, the line can get kind of long in there, but she knows when. The other unique thing about Judge Draper is that I don't believe she ever worked for a prosecutor's office. She's always worked in defense, particularly indigent defense. So, and if I have any of this correct or incorrect, then I invite her back on the show. She's been on a few times, and she can set the record straight. But I believe she's always worked in defense, and she brings kind of a unique perspective to the bench.
You know,
By no means does she give me everything that I want. She loves giving me a harder time than just about any judge up there. But I don't know if she loves it, but she does it. And uh, the interesting thing with what she's done is she's working all the time, right? I mean, she's a leader in all the committees that she can be involved in, and she's just done really well.
the people on the live wire and on mine, it says that the Facebook feed has gone down. Mark in the booth with Houston Media Source is going to check it out. Hopefully, we're going to get back up in a second, and if we can't, then we're going to go ahead and upload it. Judge Draper's.
But it's okay if it's not working, they can't hear you say that anyway, so it's all good.
Well, while we're here, we might as well get into a couple things. There's been a couple big wins since the last time we had this show. One of them was a capital murder with Hotchclaw and Graber.
Right.
That was a big win, and it was a multi-defendant kind of scenario. I think they're going on the second, on one of the co-defendants later on, which David Michael Ryan is heading that team up to defend him. We look forward to that trial. The case with Gerald Graber and Mark Hotchclaw, from what I understand, now there's a whole lot more to it. They recently got a not guilty on a capital murder, and some of the case, not all of it, but some of it came down to witness corroboration. So in the state of Texas, we have this real interesting kind of deal is if before you get an instruction that if there's some sort of testimony by a party, so you have two types of parties in law and parties in fact. And if you have
Right.
one party talking, basically testifying against that defendant, there has to be some corroboration. If that's particularly potentially a co-defendant, right? There has to be some corroboration that before the jury can consider or give weight, and they have to believe it by the legal standard to give weight to that cooperating witness. So here's the scenario. You got two people charged with a capital murder. Somebody's on trial. They bring the co-defendant or a conspirator or another actor, right, to the trial to testify, and then they testify, but there's no corroboration. That the jury will get an instruction that before they're going to take into consideration the testimony of this co-defendant or co-actor or co-conspirator, they have to have some sort of corroboration before they give any weight to that testimony. And it's my understanding that in this trial, I don't know if the state of Texas presented evidence of corroboration to this whatever witness they presented, or the state presented evidence and the jury just decided to give them no weight. The reality is it's a huge win, and it's a classic case of snitch testimony, of people testifying against each other for different motives and nothing to back up or corroborate what they say. Huge win, big time win.
Yeah, congratulations. Well earned and well fought.
I agree, and I'd love to have either Mark or Gerald on the show to talk about how they won that case. You know, years ago, I was on a Capitol with Anthony Osso and Daniel Cahill, and I was kind of like, you know, third backup, right? Like no name recognition, no nothing, just grunt work. And
I've carried briefcases before.
Oh yeah, carry the water, and that ended up in a not guilty on a capital murder based on no corroboration. The reality is that, you know, sometimes words just aren't enough, particularly if your witness who's spewing these words is incredible at a face value. And sometimes, you know, that's all the state got. And sometimes the state says, you know what, believe this person. But the law says you can only believe this person unless something corroborates what they say. And if there's no corroboration, bound by the law, you have to vote or not guilty, which is incredible, which is an incredible...
So is it a directed verdict?
No. Well, I mean, typically there's gonna be some evidence that a jury could consider. I would think it would be a wild scenario where a judge would grant. I mean, technically, you're right. If there's no corroboration on that, I think. But is that what happens? That like the court like denies the testimony or no?
Opinion being offered?
You'll make your directed verdict, and the judge will say, well, I mean, in reality, maybe not, because judging the credibility of the witness is based on the jury, and the jury determines how much weight to give any sort of corroboration, and obviously, as we know, the witness testimony. And therefore, if there's no corroboration, as instructed by law, I mean, you will have to you'll be instructed to give that testimony no weight, which is an incredible kind of thing, because when you have people who have died, or when you have bad facts, that jury wants to convict, man. They just do. They want somebody to go down for the crime. The easiest person to go down for the crime. And to keep a jury at bay and say, wait, what this snitch told you is incredible. Or what this witness told you is incredible. Because they have some sort of motive, they have some sort of bias, they have something that is contributing.
Reason to lie.
A reason to lie. You know, and that's pretty tough to make a jury basically say, no, stay. I know you want to eat that piece of meat. I know you want that treat, but just don't do it. That's hard, man. That's master of craft stuff. That's
It
real.
is. It is. I mean,
That's master of craft stuff, man.
when you have a tragedy, like you said, jurors are impaneled and they're emboldened and they're motivated and they're a lot of times there to give justice to someone who is wrong. And for them to say to the state, nope, not this person. I mean, I hope the state does what that means is next is go back and find the person who did this. Right. So it's an impressive thing to keep someone from hanging their hat on a hook that's that convenient. So good work by the lawyers.
What other
Sure.
have we had any wins in the last week or two?
I'm sure there's been many.
You know, Maria De Leon won a case out in ERD on an assault family member. That's the only other not guilty I kind of heard about. On the greater Texas scheme, we've seen some things on some people getting not guilties on capital murders and things like that. But I'm trying to. I mean, if there's something that I'm missing, like somebody on the TV, please let me know. But it still looks
I've
like.
been hunkered down preparing for a few trials that are kind of.
Well, here,
definitely coming up.
Nathaniel Munier saying this is working. Is it working? I'm sending out. Can somebody text me if you're watching, just or just on the chat? Please tell me that that it's working. So what other things are going down at CJC? We had a big capital murder. You know, really. The courts
not
are
guilty on the capital murder.
It's a not guilty on a capital murder. That's huge. What other kind of things are going down at the courthouse? The new elevators. Here's the thing with the new elevators, man. At least on my opinion.
We cannot talk about elevators on this show for more than like 45 seconds. Go ahead.
All right. Here's my on elevators. Look, I go to the elevator, the attorney elevators. Two problems. One, I click the badge, the thing, and it goes beep, and then I push the number 10, and it doesn't stick on number 10. It goes.
10 doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
8, 9, 11, 13,
it
14,
starts and doesn't open.
15,
it doesn't work.
16, it doesn't work. 10 doesn't work.
10
now,
doesn't.
I was on there today. We got stuck on 7 because 7 doesn't work either, even though that's where the attorney ready room is. And this really nice woman got on who works in the admin part of the building. She used her badge and hit 8, 9, 10, and 11, but she got 10 for me. And then she went to, I don't know what, 13 or something, not the DA's office, but wherever she went, she said, oh, I know, I think, I don't want to say his name, but John, I know John, and I'll tell John to fix this. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then when she got off, she looked back and she said, I'll tell John to make sure he fixes this. And John's the guy who's in charge of all the elevators and how these things work like this. So I was like, oh, yeah, please tell John. So maybe John will fix this and we'll be able to stop on 10 and 7.
I do love that I can go to the Gen Pop elevators and then I can go to the attorney elevator just depending on where I'm at. And if I need to go to 10 currently, because the badge don't work on 10, and even when you click it and you punch in the elevator button on 10, in the attorney, we're talking about the attorney elevators, they don't work. So whoever is in charge of that, it's a problem.
It's John. John's going to fix it. But look, man, do you remember when they announced that they were thinking about putting elevators on the outside of the buildings?
Mm-hmm.
And we laughed at it? I got to say, I will give credit where credit's due. Once they fix all these little kinks, like which floors it won't stop on, they finally have the west side of the building doors, the automated doors that worked for a week and then stopped working for 3 weeks. They're now back working again. Once they have all these kinks worked out, if this building works the way it's supposed to, I got to give them props. These back elevators work pretty nice. They're really convenient for you to get from above the 10th floor to below the 10th floor without having to stop on 10, move over, or fight which side they're going to stop on. So, I do appreciate what they're doing, and I hope they keep the defense bar in mind, because I've been on those elevators and sometimes I can't get from one floor to another, and a DA, their badge, like some prosecutor who's just an intern, not even like committed to the office, swipes their badge, and now I can get to a floor that I couldn't get to. I couldn't get to on my own badge, where I have a background check that I passed.
Well, the
So,
reality is our badges are bigger than their badges.
have you ever measured their badge,
Oh, it's like,
or do you measure? Did you measured your badge?
oh yeah, you've never measured your badge, Justin? No. Well, look.
No, no, right?
No. Well, look. Additionally, those elevators aren't being used that often. At least when I'm there, I'm the only one in the elevator.
They're great. They're great.
They're great. They're great. There's only two of them.
It's like when you.
There's
it's
only
like when
two of them, but there's only two of them, and there's been a couple times when I've been caught in them, and it takes a little bit. Granted, it doesn't take as long as the other elevators, but beggars can't be choosers.
No, they're great.
Okay,
I just wish that the outside was glass too. That'd be nice. Like we just turn around and look and see.
Put the glass down. The case is made of glass. Just make the elevator of glass.
Just make that. Just put a little window in it. That'd be kind of cool. You turn around and you watch as you go up and down 20 floors. It'd be kind of cool.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. I don't know. It's a good deal. I think, okay, so for everybody who's there or who's listening, I don't know where these elevators are. We don't have access to all the new elevators, just the northwest ones. And the northwest ones not on the 10th floor or going to the 10th floor, okay? So here's the deal. You get out into the core and you get to the hallway, you look to your left, and if you see downtown, you're going the wrong way, because just turn right.
Go away from downtown.
Go away from downtown. As you go from away from downtown, it's to the left. You pop, you go in, and you go down or up.
Unless you're on the east side, then it's to the right.
Right, unless you're coming out
to
the
the
east side.
Just go away from downtown.
Go away from downtown.
Go towards the bayou, towards the jail.
Once you're going away from downtown, it's always to the left. Just go away from downtown, always to the left. Away from downtown, always to the left. All right, what other gossip's going down or big wins that we have at the CJC? So we got the, here's the other thing. I thought those elevators and everything else was supposed to alleviate the line. Juan Aguirre is posting pictures. Jay Cohen is posting pictures of Damon's talking junk about my scarf. And this would be a good flip, because Damon, if you can, I'm going to send the link to you. Maybe you can come on, because we're about to talk about some of the stuff with the DA's motions. But
Damon can just come on and tell you to your face what he thinks about your scarf. How about that?
Well, what is he going to say? It's a beautiful scarf. So I forget where we're at. I forget where we're at. Look, the elevators are starting to work. You can't get to 10. Apparently, Justin knows the guy to get him where.
I rode with the person who knows the guy. So. All
right.
Darvishi got a not guilty, didn't he?
Darvishi got a big not guilty. The other thing, Darvishi got a big not guilty with his team. Good job. Congrats. I don't know any of the facts on that case. I don't know if it was a DWI or something. Does anybody know? Anybody on the live wire here?
It was a case I think assigned to court 3, but what I'm seeing is that Judge Clinton presided over the trial, so it must have been an ERD case.
Well, okay, so we're going to talk about those ERD cases. So, here's the deal. All right, we're already at 8:20, so let's go ahead and switch topics. Let's talk about emergency relief docket. So we have 2 emergency relief dockets. One's for misdemeanors and one's for felonies, run by 2 completely different bodies, governing bodies. Let's focus on misdemeanors for a second. So on misdemeanors, currently ERD judges that I've seen are Judge Clinton, Judge Fleming. Have you seen anybody else?
Does Judge Ross sit on ERD too?
Judge Ross sits on ERD. Who else?
I think that's the main 3.
I haven't seen
There
anybody
may be
else
some
on here,
others.
D. Look, I'm getting a text here. Let's see if okay, no, I don't see any. That wasn't anybody else on the live wire. Nothing. So, here's the kind of deal. So you go to a court, and let's say Justin Harris is elected to County Criminal Court at Law Blue, and or let's just call it a more appropriate color like pink. So Justin Harris gets Harris County Criminal Court at Law pink, and he outseats Harris County Criminal Law Judge red. Or no, let's keep it neutral. Let's do hypotheticals purple. And so I'm gonna try a case in front of Justin Harris, elect of the one this bench. In the words of Andrew Wright and Judge Wright, this bench belongs to Harris County, and I think I'm trying
The people of Harris County.
the people of Harris County, and I'm thinking I'm trying it against Judge Harris, and we know what he ran on. We know what his political views are. He's
most importantly, the citizens of the county said that's the person who I want to be my judge.
And then suddenly the defendant, if they get sent to an ERD docket, which is called the emergency relief docket, you're in front of the judge that was not reelected or retired.
Yeah, or retired.
From a different political spectrum or beliefs.
Someone who said, I don't want to run for this anymore. I don't want to be in this contest to be judge. Or someone who the voters said, we don't want you to be our judge.
Well, and now
no
you
disrespect intended, but that's I don't know.
Well, I'll say
it's kind of an interesting situation to be in.
Well, you, as a defendant or as a lawyer who's trying to strategize, I made that word up, or I inflected it differently, how to proceed on your case, you need to know who the judge is that's going to be presiding. So I had a situation this week. It worked out just fine. Thankfully, because of the issues that were involved in my case and some of the judges that were involved. We were rolled day for day. Monday rolled, Tuesday rolled, Wednesday rolled, Thursday finally hit whatever it is, finally hit the case. The first 3 days we had Judge Fleming, who's great. And I lucked out because people like you and I have had a lot of experience with Judge Fleming. We know how to speak to Judge Fleming. We know her ear. We know her tendencies because Judge Fleming was a judge.
Just like any judge, you get to know after.
You get to know him.
Yeah.
And it's not to say it's good or it's bad. In my situation, this is my situation. But I knew what the issues I needed to address with her and how to approach them. Because that's part of the things that you hire or as a lawyer, you have to take into consideration your venue.
Exactly, your audience.
Your audience. And I showed up to court, it was yesterday, and it wasn't Fleming anymore. And it was Judge Clinton. And Judge Clinton, which I've sat, Judge Clinton has presided over 50 cases that I've tried. Literally, I mean, over 10 years. Great.
He tries a lot. He's a machine.
He's a machine. He's tried all kinds of cases. But I had to change the way in the morning of how I proceeded with the case. I did based on how I know Judge Clinton, and that's fine because we're all skilled advocates, and that's what we're there to do. And you have to adjust.
Well, yeah, because I mean, everything, right? What's the first thing that Judge Clinton says during voir dire? I've tried more, just like you. I've tried more cases to Judge Clinton than anybody else. What's the first thing he says to the panel in voir dire?
You tell me, Justin.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Judge John Clinton, presiding judge of County Court of Law number 4. No relation.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said. No, and everybody
Every
laughs.
time.
Great
Every
time.
time.
For,
Judge John Clinton, no relation.
for me, I had to change my
And I
entire.
love it. It's great. Like Judge Clinton does a great voir dire. He gives you an incredibly fair trial. I mean, he's a former HPD officer, homicide detective. He has some awesome stories. And did you know he was
Look,
on the?
yeah,
He was also like a
he
scuba
invented
diver.
jugging. Yeah, he invented jugging, or the term
I don't know
jugging.
about that,
Oh,
but he was on the scuba. He's a scuba diver. But he also did homicide. So when there was like bodies floating in water or sunk bodies, he's got some really interesting stories,
how
man.
cool would that be?
Really
Like, how
interesting
cool would that
stories.
be? Well, look,
I don't know if it's cool, but it's not a story you've heard. These stories are not ones you've heard. But he's also just regular guy. I mean,
but
I talked about TV shows. He's got good recommendations on TV shows and golf.
all right. Well,
Judge Clinton's great.
but look, I had to change because I know Judge Clinton hates scaled questions. He can't stand
Right.
it. And I know Judge Clinton gives only 20 minutes for voir dire. Okay?
Yep.
So I'm walking into a thing where I have my entire voir dire prepared in a certain way because I know Judge Fleming is going to accept this kind of voir dire. I walk in and it's Judge Clinton, which is fine. And I know Judge Clinton. Cool. I have to adapt. And so I have to change my entire voir dire because I know I'm only going to have 20 minutes. And I know every scaled question that I put up there, he's going to critique and take over. Now, in front of the panel, I have to maintain some sort of credibility because the case that I was on, which ended up in a mid-trial dismissal, by the way, I had to be the credible guy. You always have to be the credible guy. But in this case, it was very thin line, and I could not let the judge interrupt me during my voir dire because I know he does not like the questions that I'm about to ask. And if he does, he's going to screw my voir dire up, and I'm
Throw
going to
everything off.
I'm going to throw
mess up your
everything off.
credibility.
I'm going to look like an idiot in front of the jury panel, and I'm not going to get most importantly, not going to get the information that I need as part of my process on how I've built my case. Now, so I had to switch that. I didn't like it. I don't mind sitting with Judge Clinton. He's a great judge. No complaint. But I did not like the fact that I had to do that at 8 a.m. And I guarantee you,
It has nothing to do with Judge Clinton.
Has nothing to do with Judge Clinton.
Like, pick any two judges and like prosecutors, everything. Like, when I know who my opponent is and I'm preparing everything from my motions in limine to
All
my
of it.
cross-examinations, I'm anticipating like what they're going to be doing, thinking what they're going to be trying to get out, how I block their evidence if I think I can, if the law is on my side or my client's side. You also got to pay attention just as much to who your judge is. You have to know your audience. There's not just one audience. It's not just the jury or the prosecutor or the judge.
Well,
it's all those people. So when they throw one thing off, and that's what I just don't understand. Like these, I don't understand what they're doing here.
If you put me in this situation 13 years ago, I'm a 13, 14-year lawyer. You put me in 14 years ago in this situation, I would have lost it to the detriment of my client. I would not have been prepared. I would not have known what's going on.
Sure.
And that's not fair.
Experience is taught you how to pivot. I mean, you're the guy who was over at Astro World. Your pants split during voir dire, or right before voir dire, and you turned that into reasonable doubt.
You can't.
Right?
Well, yes, that's a true story.
You have to experience this stuff. Yeah, you have to experience this stuff.
That's not.
You have more experience than anyone.
But the ability to, everything you're saying is true. The ability and the right to prepare a certain case because you're anticipating certain things, it's not a right, but
the constitutional right.
It's not
effective
fair.
counsel.
It's not right, but
effective counsel.
Well,
how effective are you if at the last minute you find out that that's why you can rely on the state's subpoena of their witnesses, right?
Yeah.
Because you prepared your case based on knowing who their witnesses that they're going to call, and you check who the subpoena list is, and you're like, okay, I'm going to prepare the cross-examination and my case strategy based on that. If they don't call that witness, you don't have to subpoena them. You can rely upon their subpoena, and the court can order that person to court to testify under the state subpoena.
Okay.
So it's the same kind of thing. You prepare your case based on this, and it's the right to effective counsel. So I would really like the judges to kind of step back and think about, like, what's going on? Why do we create 2 new courts when there's 39 courts? And I mean, they're not all in trial at once. They could be.
Okay.
Like the district clerk can call enough jurors down here. They can have 39 courts in voir dire at once.
Okay.
You just got to have, like, the willpower.
Speaking of creating new courts, so granted, well, I think that the reality is anybody who's taking cases and taking cases to trial, you better be ready to pivot, period. In this day and age, in this type of backlog that we have in Harris County, that's the reality that you're facing. And it's not to say to accept that, but it is to say that you're going to be placed in that situation, and you better be ready to fight your case, and you better be prepared for if it pivots and if it changes. Now, that's in the misdemeanor courts. Let's talk about the emergency relief docket in felony court. So going back for anybody, so to catch anybody up, the emergency relief dockets were created to relieve the backlog from Harvey and from COVID, and so we basically had to have more judges and more courts so to get through the backlog that Harvey and then COVID has created in the past. I think it was in one of our last shows, they're trying to get through 5,000 cases. I think there's a goal of some sort of like 5,000 cases in the next 6 months. That's incredible. Number one.
Felonies?
Felonies and misdemeanor. I think it's cases in general, the backlog. What I think, number one, a district.
I know of about 150 they can get rid of right now.
What a district. Yeah, I know all the crap cases that the DA's office is taking. I will tell you this: we were rolled from Monday, Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday, all for to just get a mid-trial dismissal on something that should have been dismissed in the first place. And I'll give credit to Judge Clinton for calling the state out, saying, "Look, this is ridiculous. Y'all need to dump this." The reality is there's a lot, it's over-criminalization of the crimes in this county that aren't worth the taxpayers' money. Some of them are. A lot of them are, but a lot of them are certainly not. A lot of them are certainly not.
They're not, and...
Okay, so...
I mean, I guess we're just seeing... Maybe we're seeing... JV, honestly, maybe we're seeing the same thing in criminal justice that you're supposedly seeing in, like, the education system, right? That COVID took kids out of school so long that now that they're back in, they're kind of stunted, and 63% of kids in 4th grade can't read. I saw that as a headline. I haven't, like, followed up on that, so don't quote me on that. But maybe that's what's happening with, like, prosecutors. COVID shut things down so long they haven't tried enough cases. I remember when I was a baby lawyer, other lawyers telling me that certain prosecutors just kind of have to get beat enough, and defense attorneys have to, have the kind of things that you talked about happen to us enough that we have to learn how to pivot, and they have to learn when to spot a bad case they can't prove at court. But I don't know. I mean,
okay.
The
So
only place I'm going to end up here is that this so-called backlog from Harvey and COVID is all completely self-imposed by the DA. If they want to get rid of 5,000 cases, just dismiss whatever 5,000 cases that you want. I mean, and if you don't like that, then stop setting these arbitrary goals, because you only have control over one thing, and that's dismissing and filing charges. Defendants have full control over whether or not they plead guilty. And if my client doesn't want to plead guilty because you're not making a reasonable offer, then you decide if you want to try that case and keep the court backlog going or dismiss it.
So let's talk about it. Okay, hold on. I'm texting somebody who's trying to get on the show. Okay,
somebody other than me.
Well,
please.
Okay, so check this out. So we have emergency relief docket for the misdemeanor courts that has not been challenged. I think it hasn't been challenged, particularly because the punishments, nobody's going to prison on those kind of things. 99.9% of people's cases, they're going to result in a probation plea or a very, very short county stint, and they get out. There's no reason for anybody on misdemeanors who needs to be in jail unless they have some sort of felony pendings or holds in other counties. I think that's why the misdemeanor courts haven't been challenged for the creation of the ERD dockets or the judges presiding on the ERD dockets. Now, I'm not even going to get into it because I don't even know if they've gone through the proper procedures to create those dockets and to create the jurisdiction for those judges to preside. I have no idea, nor am I commenting one way or the other. But let's shift our focus to the emergency relief dockets of the felony courts. On the felony side, Drew Wiley has filed something that is pending or not pending. I think it's very unclear. If somebody can help us out on the show today to kind of talk about it. I did talk to Drew Wiley today.
Drew Willie?
Drew Willie, pardon me. I keep saying Wiley.
Really?
Drew
Okay.
Willie, pardon me,
okay.
Drew Willie.
Make sure we got the
Drew,
right guy.
please excuse me. We just finished talking. Drew Willie.
No, he's good.
He filed objecting to the ERD, the emergency relief docket judges presiding over cases and making rulings. Interestingly, you have to know that the administrative judges, typically they make recommendations to the sitting judges. However, the emergency relief docket judges actually preside and make rulings over cases. Now look, it's a mixed bag. I typically don't have problems with a lot of the judges handling the felony emergency relief dockets. And this isn't me opining one way or the other, this is the petition. The petition basically states that it objects to a felony case where somebody can be looking at felony cases involve people who are going to either state jail facility or the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. On the state jail side, 6 months to 2 years. On the felony side, minimum 2 years all the way up to life in prison, depending on your level of crime. A minimum of 2 to 10, 2 to 25 to life, 15 to life, 25 to life. So from what I understand, the pleadings that Drew Willie has filed says we object to emergency relief docket judges hearing some of these felony cases for a number of reasons. Some of them being that they were created outside the powers that can create courts. And so, for example, the legislature is supposed to be able to, is the only body, is the argument, that's supposed to create courts to hear cases. But in this case, in the case in Harris County, these courts were created by Commissioner's Court. And Commissioner's Court has given the power to these judges to be able to make rulings, seat juries, render verdicts, sign, basically function as a visiting judge. So, albeit in a different court. The pleadings are extraordinarily complex and very, very thick. So I'd like to invite Drew to come on the show to explain everything. But the idea is the same thing. The citizens of Harris County elected certain judges to preside over the cases that the citizens of Harris County are accused of committing. And when you send the case to an emergency relief docket that's ostensibly created outside the powers of the legislature and created by the Harris County Commissioner's Court without any sort of oversight by the elected officials, elected judges, you're creating a court that shouldn't have any jurisdiction. Now, I'm not opining one way or the other. I want to let the viewers know that. However, I do share the same sentiment. If I'm going to be going up in front of a felony court judge, and I have, just as Nathaniel Meunier has said on the live wire here on Facebook, suppression issues, if I'm going to go to the judge or jury for punishment, the way I'm going to approach my case. If I'm going to go and approach my case on something, on an issue, even if it's punishment or if it's a suppression issue of something in front of a particular type of judge, I know that I need to I need to change my perspective and speak to this particular judge. And that's how I advise my client. However, at the last minute, if I get shipped off to an emergency relief docket and I'm placed in front of a judge that was actually voted out of office, that the citizens of Harris County said, no, we don't want you as a judge anymore. And suddenly, myself and my client are found in a very, very different predicament. And I have to suddenly, on the day of trial or as I approach trial, tell my client that, hey, guess what? We're not in front of that judge who I thought might suppress this type of evidence, or we're not in front of this judge who I thought might get you probation. We're actually now in front of this judge who's not a judge who aligns ideologically with the judge that we thought we were going to go in front of. It's a big problem. It is.
It's a problem, and that's a problem on so many levels, right? When the law is black and white, and you can have this judge or this judge and get one outcome or a completely different outcome, right?
Well, what ends up
that's also a problem.
What ends up happening is, for example, I'll advise a client, this particular judge, I think you can get probation from this judge. I think.
Oh yeah, no.
And then suddenly we're sent somewhere else, and I know for a fact this judge, not on the planet, will ever consider probation in any sort of way or fashion. And that's part of the reason why this particular judge was elected out of office. It's a real tough deal. It is. I mean, it just is.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the bigger, I mean, I don't know, is it a Sixth Amendment issue when
I don't know, and this is why I want
your client go to trial on this case, because I've seen how this judge rules before on my cases, on other attorneys' cases, and like this issue, this is how the judge rules. And then all of a sudden you get an email saying a court on Monday, you need to show up to the building across the street or go to a different floor and see this other judge, and you're like, oh, well, I also know that judge, they're never going to rule the way that I thought that the other judge was going to rule. And you've advised your client on that. That's a different, I mean, I think there's two issues here, but I think the voters need to pay attention to the first one. That you can have two different judges, even sometimes in the same party, even right next to each other in the hallway, with completely different bond amounts, completely different standard bond conditions, completely different punishments, judgments, rulings on suppression issues, court appearance policies. You can go down in some courts and one end of the hallway is packed with people. The other end, there's like the court staff and attorneys in the courtroom. The audience, the gallery is empty.
And I want to be clear.
There should be some consistency, and the voters just wish they realized how much there was inconsistency.
Well, and I want to be clear. I think the ERD judges that are out there on the felony side right now are typically Judge Collins, who's, in my opinion,
they're all good.
You're going to be okay. You have Ellis out there. You have the other judge, Bradley, out there. You have Velasquez out there. And they're doing awesome. And I would say that they're typically, even though it's different than their old party lines, they're kind of saying, you know what, this is a new dawn, a new day, and they're doing good things. But at the same time, there's a very different, extraordinarily different approach if I'm in front of a judge that I know she typically rules a certain way, or we know that's her historical pattern. And then if I'm flipped on the script at the last minute and there's another judge presiding, I'm faced with a a difficult situation. Recently, there was a situation where I love Judge Anderson. He's an awesome guy, but he will send somebody to prison with a big old smile on his face and say goodbye. When he's sitting
So
for
wish you the best luck.
maybe he's sitting for Judge X, and that other judge was like, yeah, you know what? I typically give probation on these kind of cases, and if you see on this particular case, and I'm saying Judge Anderson because this is what happened. So somebody comes in, PSI. Judge Anderson all of a sudden is presiding. Lawyer advises the client, yo, I thought you were going to get probation, but right now, I don't really think you're getting probation, bro. And the client says, what are you talking about? You advised me on this certain thing, and that's why I did it. And the lawyer's like, well, guess what? Kind of looks like it's not going to work out today for you. And then that defendant ran and caused a big scene at the criminal courthouse. I don't blame the guy. I don't blame the defendant. And I think it's a motion. I think it's a motion for a new trial, motion to set aside your plea. It's a motion for a new trial, I think. Or, you know, the lawyer's stuck there having to say, look, I respect you. You're awesome. And I think you'd give probation in other types of cases. But in this one, I know you're not. But we were coming hoping to get some probation and thinking we were at least have a shot. I don't know. I think it's going to be a problem. Either way, Drew Willie has filed some things to object to the creation of those emergency relief dockets. And we're going to see where it goes. I think initially it's pending. I don't think he won at the higher court level, and now he's appealing, and now it's pending. I don't know. I don't want to misspeak on it, nor do I want to disparage any sort of ERD judge, because but the reality is, if you have a Democratic wave, and then you're sending every one of the cases that are super old, that aren't going to be tried in the home court to a completely different ideological party and standpoints, to different judges. I just think it creates problems. Okay, look, we're going fast on this. Let's move on. One of the things that's kind of popping up is, well, let's see. Let's check the live wire here. Jay Cohen says, how many judges have been voted out of office because something they did in office? Probably all of them, right? The reason they were voted out of office is because the citizens of Harris County said no. So if we use logic, well, then why are we sending cases for them to judge the citizens of this county when they were voted out of office?
Hey, where's your microphone? Is your scarf covering it up?
Can you hear me? Am I messing up here?
It was muffling.
I don't know. Well, then why? Well, look, now I messed this part up. Why are you sending cases to judges that the citizens of Harris County said no? I don't know. That's a tough question. That's not for me. As far as I'm concerned, it's a big topic. We'll see where it goes, and experienced litigators are going, because you're going to have to deal with it. And you know what? You have to adapt, and that's not to say, you get to these judges, you speak to them differently. Hey, let's move on though. Something else I want to talk about.
What's ERD stand for again?
The ED docket. It's kind of like,
ERD, emergency.
Oh, ERD.
Relief.
My bad.
Oh, ED.
Yeah,
so the ERD docket.
Yeah. Anyway,
but is the emergency still going on? Because we cannot cram in the elevators.
I think that's part. That's another thing to talk about.
Courts that still require masks.
There are
what's the emergency?
COVID's on the rise. Anyways, okay.
Yeah, last time we talked, COVID was on the rise.
So you didn't get the joke. You didn't get the joke. Anyways, okay. So next one. That's funny. I keep laughing about it. Hey, look. The next thing. Let's talk about. So apparently, the district attorney's office is trying to recuse or remove Judge Bell from presiding over cases because she was part of the public defender's office. Specifically, specifically in their petition, it's a motion to disqualify. And I'll read it. The state argues that the judge in the present case is disqualified from hearing the case due to the fact that she practiced law with a fellow PDO lawyer who took the case and was a member of the PDO firm during its representation of defendant. The judge is therefore vicariously disqualified from presiding over the case. Okay, so if you're going to try to disqualify Judge Bell just because she was a member of the PDO's office, then shouldn't all the district attorneys who are now, assistant district attorneys who are now judges, be disqualified from every one of their cases because they were vicariously part of the prosecution team but are now judges? This is what the district attorney's office is doing now. They are trying to disqualify Judge Bell from presiding over cases that the PDO had because she was a PDO.
Any public defender?
Because she was a PDO before she was a judge. How absurd is that?
Any public defender or like one particular case?
Now here,
I haven't heard about that.
Well, what I believe is that they don't like the facts and they know the judge. How about this? I guarantee if Judge Bell sent that case to the ERD docket, the PDO, the district attorney's office wouldn't be objecting to nothing.
Oh, that'd be fine.
Because they have a venue that's favorable to them. I won't say favorable to them, but just in the past has historically not been like Judge Bell. But they're mad that Judge Bell's presiding, and they are filing motions to disqualify her just based on the fact that, due to the fact that she practiced law with a fellow public defender who took the case and was a member of the public defender's firm, in quotes, firm, during its representation of the defendant, the judge is therefore vicariously disqualified from presiding over the case. If that's the case,
I don't read that. Like, I mean, I'm not reading the petition, but like disqualification would rise if failure of a judge to recuse when recusal is appropriate can constitute a violation of the Code of Judicial Conduct. Failure to recuse may rise to the level of disqualification when it impacts the litigant's right to due process.
Hey, look.
The state has no right to due process, number one. And number two, like, just because she worked there does not mean that she has any bias towards the state. I mean, that's what's missing here. I hope this gets thrown out very summarily.
Well, Damon, I know Damon's watching. Damon, we need you on the show too. So this is a call out to Drew and it's a call out to Damon. So we have 3 minutes left, Justin. I'm going to hijack the rest of the show. We just left a memorial for Jeff Blackburn, a giant of the legal community. He was an amazing mentor, an amazing friend, changed a lot of lives and saved a lot of lives. So for the last 3 minutes in his honor, I'd like to read some words, and I'm going to read it. Jeff Blackburn of Amarillo, Texas, recently of El Prado, New Mexico, died of cancer on February 7th, 2023. He was 65. Jeff was born on International Work Day, May 1st, 1957. He grew up in Amarillo, Texas, and at the time of his death was living both in New Mexico and Texas. He was a lawyer. He received his law degree from the University of Houston and began practicing law in Amarillo in 1983. Jeff's long legal career was spent representing the poor and disadvantaged, often for free, in criminal and civil rights cases all over Texas. In 1985, 2 years out of law school, he briefed and argued a case of Texas v. McCullough before the U.S. Supreme Court. He became board certified as a specialist in criminal law in 1988 and remained so until the time of his death. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, he handled many high visibility cases, including whistleblower and death penalty cases across the state. He was once called the trouble-makingest lawyer in West Texas by a Texas Lawyer newspaper during his period. Jeff took that as a great compliment. In 2001, he tackled the cases of 38 people, nearly all of whom were African American, arrested for drugs in Tula, Texas, after years of painstaking pro bono legal work during which he formed and led a national coalition of lawyers. His clients were exonerated with what remains the largest mass pardon in U.S. history. This event led to the passage of a significant criminal justice reform legislation, including the Funding Drug Task Force, much of which Jeff conceived and co-authored. In 2006, he founded the Innocence Project of Texas. He served as its chief counsel in 2015. That organization, based at Texas Tech Law School, exonerated dozens of wrongfully convicted people and won national acclaim. In late 2009, he secured the exoneration of Tim Cole, a young man who had been falsely accused and died in prison. The posthumous exoneration, the first of its kind in Texas, led to the passage of multiple reforms, including the Tim Cole Compensation Act and creation of the Tim Cole Advisory Panel on Wrongful Conviction. There is now a monument to Mr. Cole in Lubbock, Texas, honoring his memory and the work done by Jeff and the Innocence Project of Texas. With Kevin Glassine, he also established the Tim Cole Scholarship at Texas Help to help law students willing to work to free the innocent. Jeff pioneered other reforms in Texas, including laws and rules that limit the use of junk science and false eyewitness identification by prosecutors. And it goes on and on. Jeff's last project was creating a new civil rights organization in northern New Mexico and southern Colorado. Memorials for him should be put up and placed across the country. He was a legal giant that has inspired countless of young people. In fact, Jeff Blackburn was the first legal giant that I admired. 14 years ago, Jeff Blackburn showed me what it meant to stand for something. And 14 years later, I am the criminal defense lawyer who I am because of what he stood for, and because for a second I thought it'd be the coolest thing on the planet to be like him. Jeff Blackburn, thank you for your work. You're a giant in the legal community. Thank you for your inspiration, for everything and the impact that you've made on this planet. We look forward to honoring you through our work and fighting for those accused. With that being said, Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, J. Julio Vela, Justin Harris, and everybody for the citizens of Harris County, we love you. Houston Media Source, Mark in the booth. Hasta luego.